Jadavpur Association of International Relations, I, Shreya Varmokar, extend a very warm welcome to all of you to the second session of our MindSphere Talks series. Today we gather for an intellectually enriching lecture titled We, the People and the Constitution of India, Identities, Aspirations and Achievements. It is my honor to introduce our esteemed speaker, Professor Indrashish Banerjee, Associate Professor of Political Science at Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira, Belurmath. Professor Banerjee's academic journey began at Presidency College and continued through Calcutta University, culminating in a Ph.D. in Political Science and International Relations from Jadavpur University. Alongside his rich academic career, he has also served in the West Bengal Civil Service, where he held positions such as Deputy Magistrate, Deputy Collector, and Block Development Officer. In the academic field, he has been head and chairperson of the Department of Political Science at Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira and has served as a coordinator of IQAC. He has also been a state-level mentor for NAC assessment and accreditation for colleges across Malda, Howrah, Birbhum, and Purulia. Professor Banerjee has contributed extensively as a researcher and consultant, conducting fieldwork across West Bengal, including studies on post-disaster reconstruction and rural development. His scholarly contributions include publications with Oxford University Press, Economic and Political Weekly, Bloomsbury, and the Center for Studies in Social Sciences, Kolkata. He has also served as a reviewer for reputed journals like Oxford Journals and Sage. Beyond academia, Professor Banerjee has dedicated himself to social outreach, being associated with the Nivedita Community Care Center in Hooghly and actively supporting the preservation of folk art traditions like baul and Fokiri music. With such a distinguished career spanning public service, academia, and social commitment, we are truly privileged to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Professor Indrashish Banerjee to deliver his lecture. But before we start with the lecture, I would request everybody to kindly mute your audios and please try to keep your videos on so that Professor Banerjee doesn't feel like that's an empty room. So yes, Professor Banerjee, over to you. We are welcoming you with our open hearts. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Am I audible? Is it clear?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes. Okay. So we have about, how much time do we have now for this session today?
Sir, we can continue up till 8:15, then or 8:20. Then we can open the space for question and answers, or even 25 for 5 minutes of question answers. So yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So at the very outset, I would like to thank the organizers here. Actually, this is also my own organization, the Jadavpur Association of International Relations. It was in about 2007, 2008 that we started this journey. And we ambled through all this while. And we are yet to go on a galloping pace, but we look forward to, because with the commitment that we have, especially from our USP, the student community and scholars, this is something that is quite unique of this particular association across India and across continents also, if I may. So it is an honor and a privilege to be part of this and engage with bright young minds. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, organizers. So at the very outset, we would say that what is the we in the first word of the very constitution that we are about to delve into. We have been talking about this. There have been tomes of writing on we, the people of India, from NDTV CDs with Barkadat and Jacob, and we've had we or our nationhood defined by Golwalkar, the RSS ideologue, and which was published way back in 1939. And also we, of course, have, as we shall see, the eminent jurist who had written a book on just this particular theme and name, that is We the People. So it's something that is conjured in our collective memory, and we are all associated with it for a very, 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 very long time. In class and outside, in university curriculum, in the government's bent on making people understand that the Constitution is not just something extraneous to our everyday lives and livelihoods, but it is intrinsic to our being. So, this particular theme that we are about to delve into is about the we-ness, which sounds so little, we, the people, and the Indian Constitution, identities, aspirations, achievements. Now, this is how I have tried to project it for today's presentation. Now, going to the presentation part of it, yes, is this visible now?
Yes, sir. It is
Okay.
visible.
Okay. So this is the full slide. This is the first slide that I'm presenting today before you all. Now, this is a very sweeping take because it requires a lot of time, lot of understanding, lot of sensitivity, and more to come across certain themes which are embedded in this particular word, we. If this is the second slide, is it okay for you? Am I audible and is this visible? The second slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh,
It is
right.
visible.
So let us now embark upon this journey for today evening. So that's me, as they said. And the topic today is we, the people, as it is there in the Constitution of India. It preempts one to think about who we are as a people, our identities. Now, identity as Indians, identities as belonging to particular linguistic groups, particular regions, religions, racial stock, gender, and so on. So, which is why this is quite deliberate that I've used identities in place of identity. Aspirations, yes, we look forward to a glorious beginning amidst all the turmoil and tumult of the partition days. And after coming across 75 years of our experience as a republic, we take a stock, of sorts that, well, where have we come after all these years? So that is what I call achievements. Fundamentally, this is something that is embedded. It is not slavery, but salvation. This is a painting by Rembrandt of Aristotle, who is alongside another great Homer. So primarily, let us go into an exercise in disaggregation, which is to say that at the very outset, we would say that framing of the Constitution itself was a very conscious plan with something in mind. We talk about our freedoms. This was a very deliberate, planned exercise with a vision where the citizenry was given an agentic role to play, not just detached, not just as objects. So we have a constitution, we know what it is, it could be written, it could be unwritten. So anything that abides by the constitution or alongside it is the constitutional aspect. Constitutionalism is a political philosophy, let's say, and a mode of governance that tells us that there has to be rule of law. There has to be the understanding that law is king. King is not law. We'll come into it later on in our discussions. There would be separation of powers. This is all a framework so that powers that be do not exercise arbitrariness in governance. Constitutionalism is hence the political philosophy and the governance aspect of which is that it is a restricted government. So you can not do whatever you please to if you are in the government. We, the people, our written constitution, the largest democracy in the world, the largest democratic constitution in the world. In the modern world, let's say, we talk about the identities, our aspirations and achievements. So on disaggregation, we delve into certain aspects of our discussion today in the light of this. So Nani Palkiwala's book, as we said, We the People, just a snapshot. Now the paper in anatomy. So this is about a fish which I share with my students, my friends, that it has to have an introduction, which is the head, মাছের মুড়ো যেটাকে বলা হয়. There are sections, the pieces, gada, peti, etc. And you go to the conclusion, the tail end, which gives you 2 points. This is not an eel or something, a fish that must have a tail which would have a pointed edges on both sides. So the summation would be on one side, and the next another would point out to the future research questions on this particular aspect. So that with one question in mind, we ponder and go over into a series of nexts so that knowledge goes on and on and on. And however humble one's contribution is, at least some knowledge would be contributed to the corpus that is there. And this would be a really rewarding experience for all of us. So the first part of it is this historical perspective. So there is this felt need for a constitution. So this is just brushing through. We know all about this, you know. So President Woodrow Wilson, USA, the modern world has had this written constitution from which we've taken a leaf or two and more. President Woodrow Wilson, self-determination of nations. Primarily with all this, the Indian freedom movement, along with the large number of visionaries from one end of the spectrum of ideologies to the extreme other, they've all had their contributions, which have often been in the light of later discussions and criticisms, cynicisms, been often castigated, but that is all part of the story. Nehru report, Gandhi, Swaraj, we move on. So by 34, it was more or less certain that we would have a constitution of our own because we would be the sole arbiters of our fate. This would be, as the Tripuri Congress says in the proceedings, of a free India, which must be framed by a constituent assembly without outside interference. In 1940, the All India Muslim League, little ago, he comes out with this August proposals, and then the Quit India movement from 1942 to 44, let's say, more or less, Cripps. This is where Granville Austin tells us that Indian public felt itself a corporate unit, so have come of age as adults. Casey Ware, the constitutional expert, Indians would settle for nothing short of the principle of constitutional autochthony. So we would be our own visionaries to reach ideals, values, objectives that we have set out for ourselves. And that is embedded in the conditions of the Indian conditions and soil. Autochthony has this to mean. So here comes the cabinet mission plan and the felt need for a body to frame a constitution. Considering World War II and the devastation wrought by it, what was a positive aspect for it was that there was this series of decolonization. Even though there were attempts at recolonization, when after centuries of Dutch rule, the Dutch were on their way back to Indonesia. We've had history on our side, it is said, when the Labour government came to power in Britain and Mr. Attlee made it a point to grant us independence. He was not so vocal about it, he could not be. When the Simon Commission came visiting, it could do little. This had three parts, the Cabinet Mission Plan of May 1946, which specifically called for a Constituent Assembly and an interim government. Now, this is all in proportion. So elections were to be held. They were held to 11 provincial assemblies, where, as Partha Chatterjee said, the Indian National Congress swept, as we see, and it was primarily an Indian National Congress show. The Constituent Assembly's representation was in the pre-partition days dying to be such that there would be 93 nominated persons from the 562 princely states, and apart from the 4 chief commissioners provinces, which were directly administered by the British, there were 11 provinces, out of which 292 members to be elected. Now the seats here again in the 46 election to form the Constituent Assembly of India, here again 69% of the seats went to the Indian National Congress. The Constituent Assembly, this was the seal. It seems a little, out of way, because I felt that the left ear, the tip of the left ear of this mighty Indian elephant seems to transgress the borders of British India and move on to the adjoining areas of a kingdom, which is no longer a kingdom. That's just an afterthought. A disappointed Muslim League boycotted the Constituent Assembly. And what followed during the course of the direct action on 16th August 1946 is still fresh and has been brought back, or attempts have been brought back of late. Wavell's declaration. So the CA, Constituent Assembly, would formally meet on 9 December 1946. After the partition, after this truncated Constituent Assembly of India came up, so this was the picture as on 31st December 1947. 12 provinces, 229 seats, princely states from 93 to 70, so totaling 299 from the 389 previously sought, with Pakistan born on 14th August 1947. The 11 sessions and the last where the signatures were appended, just a brush up, just that. So the country had to be partitioned, there had to be a boundary commission, followed by the Indian Independence Act 1947. So framing of the Constitution of Free India and also acting as a legislature was the work of the Constituent Assembly, which it performed, in fact, commendably considering the situation then. Those of us who are conversant with border areas, this is the river Mathavanga. Mathavanga is also the name of a block, a police station in North Bengal, but then Kuch Bihar. But then when a nation state emerges, a country, a sovereign country, territoriality is basic to it. This is in a place called Shikarpur. Those of us who have visited Nodia know, from Korimpur it fans out a few kilometers away to Shikarpur. On the other side is Bangladesh. This is an observation post dotting our borders, lest there is infiltration, or as very recently we have come across certain words as push in and push back. Observation posts with binoculars and SLRs and sniper rifles in the defense of the state. So British rule in India ends. Pakistan assumes new sovereignty, etc. This is all there, but what seems striking in a few places is that end of the Indian Empire, birth of two dominions, farewell and hail, right? Sovereign Pakistan and India born. Now, this is a very, very interesting observation which I found here, Some others may have also found it differently. Mountbatten, new governor of Hindu India, Friday, August 15, 1947. Right? Hindu India. Now, the end of the story, just look at this cartoon here, which shows that the British Union Jack and the ship is sailing away. So leaving the India written shores. Just have a look there. Recall the Roger Whittaker song, I am sailing home again, and this is for good. Cross the seas, mighty oceans, etc. But what is striking here is that this is the stereotypicality of this depiction in the Western mind about us, India. It had been. Hopefully it has changed, but not quite so. So snakes and snake charmers, tigers, monkeys, just have a look at this. This is maybe somewhat after Kipling, Rudyard Kipling, who regarded India as a white man's burden, and it had to be civilized Hindustan. Now, this is again another thing that I found here. India celebrates freedom. Consamly. Constituent Assembly is generally written as Consamly. But the Indian Express writes Consamly, A-M-B-L-Y. Takes over governance. Points to ponder. Have a look here again on the right side. Dawn of freedom in Indian Union. Assembly members take prescribed oath. Right? Assembly. That is journalism, I think. This is Dawn from Pakistan. Hindustan. At least greetings to Nehru. Hindustan Times. Historic session of Consembly here. The Tribune. Mountbatten addresses Consembly. Birth of Pakistan, an event in history, etc. Jai Hind. In this perspective, 1947 has to be revisited just to have an understanding of where we started, where we were at that point of time. Poverty and begging they saw in Bengal. British troops, they were returning from the South Asian theater of war, and they'd actually seen people like, Nehru, who was studying there, who is said to be not very good at studies, but then when he qualified in his examinations, his father, who was very moneyed, sent him to the fjords in Norway, and he was almost having an accident, something that has been documented in a book by Shashi Tharoor. Poverty and begging was something that they were never expected here. Think about a prince from the Tagore family. They are the ones who were the Indians in the eyes of the Western media, public, etc. In the last post, John Key writes, the characteristic excellence of British humanity. A famine that was there in place, K.C. Ghosh documents, this famine is primarily a state industry. A state industry, and in certain of its aspects, bears the hallmark of a genuine British manufacture. What was the India that was divided? Worn out railways, factories, nothing. And the country vivisected overnight into two artificial parts, exodus of millions of our people in rags from Pakistan to and from India. Swaraj is my birthright. Painful caesarean birth, Khushwant Singh, trained to Pakistan. It was an infancy seared by dark prenatal memories. With just rupees 260 as the average annual income per capita, what did it mean? Hunger, squalid housing, no clothing. What we say is RKM, Ramakrishna Mission, okay, but then roti kapra or makan. So on all counts, with just rupees 260 average annual income per person. And this was official according to the National Income Committee, which reported in 1951. Look at the mortality rate. Just imagine. We'll forget all this, but we'll remember that more than 40% people died before their 21st birthday. Average lifespan, 32, 31, female lesser. Literacy, the Census of India report Delhi, 1951. Dismal, in fact abysmal. So you have all the problems that were there. Sometimes I share with my students and friends that Hindustan went to Pakistan. What did it mean? It means actually that from a typewriter to a civil servant to a frigate and a sloop, everything had to be divided between the two nascent, independent, sovereign countries, India and Pakistan. So Hindustan was the name of a refurbished ship, His Majesty's Indian ship, Hindustan, which went to Pakistan actually. So in that sense, Hindustan went to Pakistan. Communal crisis, refugees, religious, social rituals, vast sections, disadvantaged, left out the caste tribes and women, completely left out of the processes that shaped their destinies. If we come to the second section of this, we have to come to the we part of it. The aims and objects of the Constituent Assembly resolution moved by Nehru, where we find in para 4 that sovereign, independent India, the powers, authority, legitimacy is derived from the people of India. Para 5 says that this is guaranteed: what? Justice, equality, freedom. Para 6, adequate safeguards. There's a beautiful book by Ambedkar, The Making of the Indian Constitution, by H.V. Hande, the statesman, where we find much about this and the making of the Constitution. Mute, please.
I would request others to mute, please.
Thank you. Proceeding. So this was the objective resolution moved by Nehru and passed on 22nd January 1947. So we have what is coming to us as a preamble, coming to the Constituent Assembly Debates, Volume 10, pages 450-54, regarding the debates on the preamble. This is a very interesting aspect of it, where Acharya Kripalani, J.B. Kripalani tells us that, sir, you, like a good host, have reserved the choicest wine for the last. I'm quoting, this preamble should have come up in the beginning of the Constitution, even as it is given in the beginning of the Constitution. Actually, the discussion on the preamble came up on 17th October 1949. That is at the fag end of the deliberations. Srimati Purnima Banerjee, another member of the Constituent Assembly from the Indian National Congress, she moved an amendment. We, the people of India, she requested the House that this be considered and the amendment carried on. What? We, the people of India, no, we on behalf of the people of India. On behalf of the people. Dr. Ambedkar felt that this was not required, somewhat superfluous, because we, the people, designated the people as the sole arbiters of their own destiny. So power, the roots of sovereignty, authority, legitimacy, it is all derived from the people. So this is directly from the Constituent Assembly deliberations. Mera Bharat Mahan. Okay. Now, this is something that I chanced upon, from a United Nations site. So I was just feeling that, is it just the Americans? Because I had read in the 2008 Constitution of Myanmar that they also write, we, the peoples of the, etc. But they have been mostly under the military junta, so not much into that. The United States document the Articles of Confederation, This predates the Philadelphia 76. Their objectives were perpetual union. Later, as we say, the people of the United States of America, more perfect union. There's been a typo here, sorry for that. General welfare. Right. Germany talks about the basic law, but both Germany and Japan, their constitutions have been, in fact, directly framed under the Allies' expertise, let us say, because they were the Axis and the Allies had their say because they were the vanquished and defeated. So history will be written by the hunter till the lion learns how to write. France, Declaration of 1789, French constitutions, Russian Federation, we the multinational people of the Russian Federation. We the people in Uzbekistan. Iran, Islamic principles, Islamic Ummah. So this is something which I looked into, and I created this for further understanding that is it just the US from which the we sprung? Is it that the source of authority in some other constitutions? This is just a few of the many that are there of the written constitutions, but overall, this is at least incrementally also some kind of a betterment of what I knew. I know something more about Germany and France and the Russian Federation, Uzbekistan, Iran, and Japan. Let us come to section 3, the onward journey. The fullest development of the self. So this is what we have at hand. Literally, I have had at hand. This is a gram, you know. And this has within it this little sapling. The gram is hard, but provided it has the proper nourishment, the air, the moisture, the right light, then it would see the light of day. So this is about the gram. This is about the constitution. Just have a look. It has sprung. Something that is inside, within it. It is something which Michelangelo was asked about, and the Renaissance sculptor gave a very simple answer, which struck me, and which is very relevant to our own understanding here. So the great sculptor was asked by somebody that, how is it that you create such beautiful sculptures? Then he said, I do nothing. It is all in the rock itself. I just remove the extra that is there. So it is something which Swamiji said, you have the potential within you. Each one of us. So the manifestation of the perfection, that is through education. Because the perfection is all within us all. So this is a very positive take. To follow Swamiji, one does not have to follow any particular religion. Now just think about this, you know, the fullest development of the self. Vikash, develop. Now, the Sanskrit or the Bengali or the Hindi part, that Vikash, that is something that is standalone, and that gives you a picture of a rising sun full of possibilities, brightness. Today was a bright day after a long time. So there's some kind of a connection with this, you know. The roads are drier, not fully perhaps, because the deluge that has been there for all these days. It is difficult for authorities to maintain the services if the rain gods play spoil sport as if not a T20 or a one day, but a series days on end. In fact, this year, months on end. So what is within us all is what Lasky calls us, and Vikash is a much better term than, excuse me, the opposite of envelope is develop. Vikash stands alone. Lasky's understanding, Harold J. Lasky, the political philosopher, tells us that each individual has within each one of us that which is to be developed, the fullest development of the self, and for which we need to have particular conditions in social life, without which we cannot be at our best. So what Lasky was saying, in other words, is that rights are those conditions of social life without which we cannot be at our best. So these are fundamental. Hence, lyrically penned, we have 85 words, and with 1949 in digits figures, so let us say we have 86 words, but when we started, there were 82 words in this. This is so lyrically penned. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic, this was how it began, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. 4 words were later added by the 42nd Amendment Act in 1976. Socialist and secular, and integrity. Socialist, secular, and 4, integrity. Now, this is seen more or less to be the foreword to the Constitution. Many say that this is the soul. The basic spirit of the Constitution is so lyrically penned in this 85, 86 words. Now, this is basically 3 parts, as has been said, We, the people. Then the nature of the state, and the aspirations, that is the vision, ideals, values. The source of the authority, we, the people. So we are tapering down to this particular aspect, because the nature of status of the state is, it is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. The source of authority is the people. We, the people of India. Now, sans on all external strings, conditionalities, all that has been binding us for almost 200 years. And we look into the aspirations, the vision, the ideals, and the values. Justice, liberty, equality, through a spirit of fraternity, which together will ensure that individual dignity would be safeguarded and the unity and integrity of the nation would be upheld. So what we are hinting at is, we the people and the Indian Constitution, identities, aspirations, achievements. So we will now go into the identity part of it. Let's see what it means. Well, identities, right? In a book edited by Bharati Roy and David Taylor, Politics and Identity in South Asia, the very introduction tells us, and I quote, identity however, is a tricky question. It is perceived differently even by the same individual according to context, and there may be overlap in the process. Its articulation is likewise conditioned by individual, regional, religious, linguistic, and other specificities. So, identity is in fact a very, very tricky question. Politics and Identity in South Asia, Bharat Rai and David Taylor writes about this. Now, let us try to understand this. We understand the source of authority as the people. Now, about the identity as Indians, we say that there is some kind of Indianness. We will come to this later, but just for the present, this is something that runs through like a leitmotif in all our understanding. The essence is pluralism, inclusivity. I'll come back to that. Well, let's say multiple identities. We talk about multiple identities. Yes. Peter Robb, The Colonial State and Construction of Indian Identity, an example on the Northeast frontier in the 1880s. He writes in this book, Politics and Identity in South Asia by Bharat Rai and David Taylor, and I quote, identities are always multiple, contingent, and continuously constructed, so that traditions are also continually reinvented, are shared and reiterated practices and beliefs which reflect the collective memories of previous constructions. He goes on, Indianness as a product of two basic things. The expansion of the British colonial state, that is the physical enlargement, where the British felt that it was the state's responsibility of civilizing the native population, the kind of my Bap state represented by the district officer, the steel frame of Indian administration, which was exported to various countries like Kenya and Nigeria. So the state is a protector. So the state must protect. For example, this is the study about the Nagas. So it is the state that would extend the rule of law. Wow. And in this, we'll have to come to the rule of law that has again been understood to mean something that gives the powers that be the ruler, the ruling regime, the alibi to extend its hold on others, or those who deviate, or those who try to regain their land in certain instances. I use this term regain their land because this was exactly what John Locke wrote in his two treatises of civil government. So it is lawfully acquired territory. So if the person there tries to regain his land, then he is to be savagely dealt with because he's a savage. And as savage as a tiger or a lion. I almost quoted Locke. So you extend your rule of law, right? So this was back then. Now we'll come back how the post-colonial state views what it calls lawlessness, and is there something called the reason of the state, again Shashi Tharoor. So the Indianness is a product of the expansion of British colonial state, the physical enlargement, and the construction of an invincibility and inevitability of white supremacy and colonial rule. Teasing the pillars of empire from out of the Rajas, Sultans, Nawabs, Zamindars, this Bahadur or that Sarkar. So it was like that. But this was one aspect of that. And Peter Robb tells us that there, again, the identity remained alongside this, the embedded local identities. So identity, in fact, is multiple. My identity is a Bengali. Let us think about me. I am a certain Banerjee. So I am born into a certain category, which is called caste. I had an education which was in the hills, in the pristine Dow Hill, which is now better known as a haunted place, etc. It's so sickening. But when people ask me, I said, look at me, I'm a product of that. So I'm a ghost actually. Now, I have had the privilege of having an education in the hills. So I am a class apart from others who are less fortunate. It is not to say that I've had the best education. It is only that this is something that creates an elite. My friends there, when we talk, they're from the hills. Most of them in my childhood, we used to talk in Nepali and then in English and in that order, unless caught in the campus. Speaking in any other tongue except English was punishable by caning, which is no more. So a Bhutia or a Lepcha, they've been my friends all along. Racially, we are so different. Think about the Sherpas. Such a rich tapestry, no? When we talk about folklores, when we look at their folk instruments, they are so different. No, they are so close. They have a stringed instrument which is somewhat close to what is in the Baul Fakiri tradition called the Sarinda. Even if one goes to near the capital, in Darjeeling, so if you go there, you find some people playing the Sarinda and singing in a very high pitch. The hill people are so musical. Everyone is, all of us are. Music is embedded within us all. I think it is true for South Asia. It is true for all of Africa. From the Middle East, the rabab has traveled to Afghanistan, where their version is a bit different from what it came into and had the form in the Delhi Darbar, the rabab. And then we come across its kin, the sarod. So it's so enmeshed. It's so like we, us, race, region, our identities, religion, caste, class, gender, language. Yes, these are all our identities. It is our identity that when in the Durand, East Bengal wins a match, there is Ilish in the family, Hilsa. And if it is for the Mohun Bagan, It is a golla chingri, that's a lobster. Well, there's a kind of sparring between the East Bengal supporters and the Mohun Bagan supporters. This is something which only people in Bengal will understand. Now, when we talk about region, we can also talk about North India, we can talk about South India, Northeast India, Southwest India, we seldom talk about. But North India, West India, East India, like that, but mostly North India and South India, because maybe it's the Aravalis which separated the North from the South. But what happened was, it has a direct bearing of the Bengali understanding of what the South means. We are very learned people, Bengalis, and everything south of the Vindhyas is Madrasi for us. They take coconuts and everything that is sour. My friends in Bakura or Birbhum, they are no less fond of curd and sour things, including fish, which are preserved over time. And this is some traditional practice that has been there for long. So, identities, the hills people, the plains people. When we talk about language, lately we were presented with a certain freshness, which I regarded something, the newness. That is the language factor in a song. The song was penned by Piyush Pandey and rendered the first few lines and the composition overall by the great Pandit Bhimsen Joshi. Mile Sur. So Mile Sur Mera Tumhara. So this girl, this young lady, Shraddha Jain, I think many of us have seen it, heard it. So she says that after all, India is one. This is something that she comes at the end of her presentation. And she says that so much space has been given to Hindi and lesser so for all others. And in fact, excepting Assam, none for the Northeast. So I was just pondering into this. And this is what I found. When we set sail, this was 26 January 1950, there were 14 languages in the 8th schedule. Well, this particular song was sung in 1988, 15th August, over Doordarshan. And there are 40 languages used. But very strangely, what struck me is that Sanskrit was there from day one, but Sanskrit is not here. No one line or half a line is there here. There is Sindhi, but Sindhi came in only 1967. There must be big minds, great minds behind this. And it is just my own observation, which I'm sharing with you. In 1992, three other languages came under this Schedule 8, Manipuri, Nepali, and Konkani. Bodo, Dogri, Maithili, and Santali came in 2004. So from the original 14, 8 were added. So we have 22. There are demands for 38 more, like Banjara, Bhojpuri, Kantapuri, Kodava, that is Kurg. But the present status is that, and I quote from the government sources, as the evolution of dialects and languages is dynamic, influenced by socio-economic political developments. It is difficult to fix any criterion for languages, whether to distinguish them from dialects or for inclusion in the 8th schedule. There had been attempts. Pawa Committee, 1996, Sitakan Mohapatra Committee, that was later in 2003, but both of them did not bear fruit. This is about the language part of it. We have to bear in mind that in 1956, the Reorganization of State Act was based on linguistic lines. The White Umbrella, Indian political thought from Manu to Gandhi. Now, this is Sri Ramchandra, Lord Rama. So when he is being baptized, Shatrughan, his brother, holds the white umbrella, the canopy. You see that umbrella on top of that. And Vashishta Muni says that this symbolizes your responsibility so that every person in your kingdom comes under this umbrella. Not a single person is to be left out. This is the principle of inclusivity. The we-ness must be embedded in this inclusivity in a country of such diverse proportions such as is ours. India, that is Bharat. Article 1, Constitution of India. This is from a fresco of a South Indian temple. Just carrying through it, these are pillars, as we said. Rule of law, much of which is from the dictionary. Rush through it, just fundamental norm, Grundnorm as in Deutsch, German. Yes, origins, basis, dices, rule of law, supremacy of law, equality before the law. This is something which all of us have gone through, we have read. Now for India, we have the constitution and the judiciary. Just flipping across this, because this by itself is a huge area. Constitution. So in upholding the rule of law, these are the areas that we have to look into. A number of case studies here where the judiciary has a role to play, of course. A huge role. This is what I was saying, king, not law, law is king. And the doctrine of separation of powers. These are intrinsic to constitutionalism, as we started. Constitution, constitutional, constitutionalism. Spirit of laws, Montesquieu. Righto. Now, these are areas where, the state must come in. Socialism, as D.D. Basu tells us, that the very words used in the constitution, especially in the preamble, where the nature is described other than socialist, secular, democratic republic. So these are all words that are very loaded and they offer very thick descriptions which are very, very interpretative. Reminds us that when Nehru was asked, what is the socialistic pattern of society that you talk about? He said, what is socialism is socialistic pattern of society. This answer did not clear the questions that I had in my mind. Rather, they compounded them. I wish I could ask him, Nehru, not the Maharaja Adhiraja of Mahishadal. His Royal Highness has had to go, and his premises are now museums, Raj College, Mahishadal, etc. He gifted an entire floor to Hindu hostel where I stayed during my studies in Kolkata. So we have rights which are fundamental in nature: equality, freedom. Just think about Article 17, the Venus. Untouchability is a crime. Freedom. But here again, you have your preventive detention, PD, a necessary evil, the reason of the state, feudal grandeur, no more. Against exploitation. The point is that all the identities, they offer one person or a group of persons to exploit others. So in the very constitution itself, we have 23 and 24. So these are all, examples. We don't have so much of time today. Maybe we'll come up later on another occasion. Religion, cultural, educational rights, remedies, elaborate mechanisms, public interest litigations. You have your human rights conditions, and you have your RICs there, 3223. This is something that is elementary. We've all studied in our UGs. Is there a basic structure? The question has come up again. There are reasonable restrictions, which means that your rights are not your licenses to do anything. They are also we the people of India. No, they are the people of India. Right? These are snapshots, Oh, I remember Ramesh Thakur using this particular word, referring to the various identities that Indians have, snapshots, and multiplicity of identities is something that has been referred to as axis by Ramchandra Guha. Axis around which Indian lives revolve, rotate. This is where I served, Just have a look. The colors of the buildings were different from what they are now. Yep. Colors speak. So let us come here. Let us come to an evaluation. Let's try to. Well, we are 75 years old or young. Well, the mature democracies, nation states, well, while they were preaching democracy across the world, they perpetuated the worst brutalized regimes in colonies like ours. In spite of all this, just look at the new democracies and the old ones. Nazism, fascism, Stalinism, they are embedded in the soil of many a mature so-called democracy. They are so vulnerable. Think about 9/11. Well, David Hilt, not a panacea really, but then offers this compelling principle of legitimacy, that is the consent of the people. That is the Venus we are talking about. India's deeply entrenched democratic heritage. Ross Babbage was writing years back. So the world of democracy is here to stay. Not really. Let us talk about very small things, Single voter polling station, just one particular person, December 1 and 5, Gujarat polls, exercise repeated on 7 May 2024. This was the Hindu monk there, Mohant Haridasji Udasin. Gujarat polls, just how strange, sole voter. For him, the electoral booth will function as it should. Siachen Glacier, remotest. We will walk the extra mile so that the voters don't have to. Reuters tells us that officials collected the voting equipment Sunday from Leh and from their 180-kilometer trip to Varshi, where the only voters were Rinchen, 23, her parents and grandparents. Wow. This is just an aspect of inclusivity. There are hundreds of others. Now, this is also as they say, justice delayed is justice denied. But that is also another side where they say that justice hurried is justice buried. Now, this is Tunganath Chaturvedi. He was a lawyer. So instead of 70, sum of money that was not returned to him, and he fought for it for so long. 1999 Mathura Consumer Court. So his long fight was from 1999 to 2022. And the judgment ordered the railways to pay him a fine of 15,000 rupees. And 20 rupees at 12% interest per year from 1999 to 2022. Not paid within 30 days, then the interest would be revised to 15% from 12. No matter a person's designation, etc., the state cannot get away with wrongdoings if people are prepared to question them about it. Right? So we come to the Laja part of it, the conclusion. Governance is certain principles. The times have changed from government to governance, a partner in development. The United Nations Development Program tells us this. It has to be participatory. Any kind of decision making must have these as the cardinal elements or features. Right? Now, this is how I can put it, So this is a stock taking of sorts, and you say, like Kobir Shumon, when he was Shumon Chatterjee, and he penned the song, meeting somebody in the Dalhousie area of Kolkata, and is asked, Bundhu, ki khobor bol? How are you, my friend? So if we look back, we can think about the democratic dividend, the demographic dividend, and the development dividend. Tongue twister of D's. Democratic demographic development. Right? Demographic. Just a snapshot or two. So we are surging ahead, marching ahead like never before. First boy. Just have a look. A declining birth rate. Life expectancy is going up. Life expectancy of India has doubled since 1947. These are all Register General Census Commissioner's reports. So very authentic, never doubt. Right? Bundhu, ki khobor bol? Ager theke to bhalo achi. It's something like saying like this, that better than where we were, demographically, health-wise, development-wise. We have all seen this. Now, this equity has to be ensured, and that can be possible through affirmative state action, because historical wrongs need to be righted. Equality and equity. Just have a look. But systemic inequality is there. You have unequal. This is from, the Washington Hospital Post. I found it very, very interesting and helpful. Inequality. Just look. Society is bent to this side, so a person will not have it. See? Inequality. So equality is this, but if there is equality, what is this person on the right equality going to get? Really nothing. Because they are the same boat, same platform, not boat. So equity would be, just have a look. Just as this platform is raised, as it is for their requirements, as per their heights requirements, here too. And justice would be when the system which can offer equal access to both opportunities, tools, etc. is there. So the tree can be straightened. democratic dividend. A little more about this part, demographic dividend, and development. We talk about a very large, in fact, the largest in the world, youths in the population share in India. But the problem is that they may turn into a liability, and it is occurring at a very undesirable scale. NEET is an acronym, NEET, that has also been used here for the youth. They are not educated, not employed, not trained. So they are in a spiral of depression, drugs, criminalization, radicalization. So what would happen to the country? What is supposed to be our demographic dividend turns out to be the greatest liability. So development of skills, employment opportunities is a must. Think about development. Nandan Nilekani's book, Imagining India, Ideas for the New Century. So he says that just after a meeting, a person who came to visit him from New York asks him, why is it that your Infosys campus is so beautiful? Its roads are so paved, wonderful, smooth, but the outsides are terrible. We have developed quite a lot, but we have quite a long way to go too. Coming to the democratic aspect of it, the democracy that we are talking about is a democracy that needs to question itself. In a book which is titled, Democracy, the way it has progressed. This is a book edited by my teacher, Professor Shomir Kumar Das from Calcutta University. And it is a collection of books. India, Democracy and Violence. This is a very, very thought-provoking book. Now, Professor Das writes that we have elections periodically. So it is the diversity that we have that holds us so that we do not go to any of the pigeonholes of what they call, the American, Anglo-American liberalism, French republicanism, or for that matter, let us say, atheistic communism, or Islamic theocracy, Buddhist theocracy. So we have just not gone into all this. We will not. In a book, as Imagining India is written by Nandan Nilekani, the other book that I was looking into was Reimagining India. So there are 10 writings there. If you're interested, please get in touch with me, because the first writing is by Amartya Sen. There is also a write-up by Professor Yunus and Mahbubul Haq and I.G. Patel, who was the governor of the RBI. And this gentleman writes about reimagining India. according to the ideals, the values that the Constitution and its preamble stood for. More or less in the line that I was thinking about. Now, coming to the end of my presentation today, as I was told, there's so much to say, but let us go on and say that it is democracy that is to be nurtured. The particularisms, as Amartya Sen calls, it is the thali for us Indians that is important. No? This again is something that I have borrowed from Shashi Tharoor, from Midnight to the Millennium, where Tharoor says that the American system is a melting pot, but India is like a thali. Each one of the items are different from the others, distinctive, but together they make for a very satisfying repast. This is India. Plural. This is Rashogolla. You know that it is intrinsically related to me being a Bengali. But there was a fight also over this GI. Anyway, we won. Retired Kerala teacher builds temple that worships Indian Constitution. Wow. Just have a look here. The temple carries photos of Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, B.R. Ambedkar, and Nobel laureate Malala. The preamble of the Constitution etched on the temple's wall. Thank you. So if you have questions, we can go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Banerjee, for the insightful and thought-provoking lecture. Your reflections on the Constitution, identities, and aspirations have indeed given us much to think about and carry forward. Now I open the floor for questions. Please raise your hand and ask your questions, and please limit your questions and be very comprehensive about your questions. Thank you.
Am I audible? I actually raised my hand. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yes, Shubhrunilda can go first, then.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, please, first of all, I can't be brief because allow me to express my sincerest gratitude to you, because it's not every day that we get to hear you in all your splendor and glory. And that having the privilege to listen to a powerfully persuasive speaker and a deep intellect like yours directly to my soul, it's just in itself, it's enlightening. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Actually, related to that, your speaking was so profound that I couldn't, in a way, etch out my question. But I'll just take a couple of minutes to just come to my question, sir. As you said, so when I look at democracy today, when I look at the state of democracy in India today, as I find, sir, there is this very peculiar tendency, but I think this is a tendency that you have had to battle with even in your youth. That is, we are a good news society. We are such a good news society. When things are going good, we refuse to actually want to do or undertake hard structural reforms or take a very good hard look inside ourselves. As in, sir, আমি একটু বাংলাতে বলছি যে দেশটাকে চিনতে হবে, স্যার এই কথাটা মানে it's still so relevant after 70 years যে দেশটাকে চিনতে হবে. But then my follow up question to our decision makers would be যে তাহলে দেশটাকে চেনো, আমি তো আটকাচ্ছি না দেশটাকে চিনতে. I, as a citizen, am completely helpless, sir. As I recall, sir, during your days for research methodology, you had so beautifully given us an exposition on ethnography. Given that, how, what is it? When I go to work, when I go to office, or for example when I'm teaching and when I get on the train every day from Howrah station and travel to Rampur or Birbhum, the abjectness of India is so in my face, and then I recognize that I'm paying taxes for a republic that has upheld the identity of weakness and impotence at every level. What is it, as in, sir, and I'm no longer the bursting youth of this country, because I've just past 27, so my youth is over. But when I see, so you see your students, when I see some of my juniors like Shreya, they're contending with the same kind of problems that I did, and I was contending, and I have been driven to nuts by the same kind of problems that you did, the problems that we could never stock take around. And this is something, sir, this breeds an existential question. I as a citizen, আমি কি করব to practice life in this republic? What can I do? What should I do? So our constitution has the directive principles of state policy and the fundamental duties, but it is so conveniently forgotten at every level. So what do I do? What can I do? স্যার শেষ করি, স্যার বিবেকানন্দ যে কংগ্রেসের নেতা নেতৃবর্গের ব্যাপারে বলেছিলেন যে কংগ্রেসের নেতা নেত্রীরা নিজেদের বাড়িতে গণতন্ত্র দিতে পারে না, তারা দেশে কি গণতন্ত্র আনবে? So where do you see, what can I do here to practice, at least practice life and living? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you, Shreya, for giving me that time.
Sir, can we take up all the questions and then you can answer? Okay, so Rudru, please be brief with your question, and if anyone else wants to ask a question, please kindly raise their hand.
Sir, am I audible? So it was a very delightful lecture of yours that we've got many various types of perspective that we see about the constitution. We read, we know that India got its republic from its own. Sir, you told that Germany and Japan have their constitution with their allied expertise. Sir, isn't that also for India, where we are getting the perspective from the British India era, that we are getting the ideas and we are implementing it on the India, that we are getting our ideas on our own? Like, isn't it putting the British ideas in front of the Indian divergent community and India's own image after as a British colony? Isn't that so? Like, what is your own perspective on that?
Any more questions? Then, if not, then sir will proceed with the answers. I guess no more questions, sir. So please.
Thank you so much for the questions. I'll come back to Shubhranil at the end of my take on what Rudru Paul sought to understand, right? So the first is, well, this has been always there, that the Indian constitution has often been regarded to be as a bag of borrowings. So we've taken this from the British and that from America, etc. But then this is also to be understood that the entire exercise, considering the times that we're there, we've already had some kind of a grooming, disciplining over the years and the decades, especially since the Indian National Congress was founded in 1885. So between 1885 and 1947, we've had this, that the British Westminster model is something that we've had our hate khori or initiation about. Now, what else could we have done? The British do not have a constitution in the written form. We have. The British have a constitutional monarchy. We did away with all remnants of princely rule and everything that went with it. Just consider that the erstwhile Rajas go for shikar of black bucks and are hounded by the law because there is rule of law. Now, it was always easy for a shikari Raja or a Chota Nawab to go for hunting lions and cheetahs, which were there then. And now we have to import cheetahs. So the times they have changed. We've had a grooming through the long struggle where the Indian National Congress participated. There was the struggle with the Communist Party of India. There were contributions by this or that party and the left within Congress, the Swarajis, the pro-changers and the no-changers. So we've had 28 months of Congress rule in the provinces where the Congress won. This is no mean, experience. So into something that we were already into is but natural for us to accept. We were experienced in that aspect. So we went ahead with that. Hence, no presidential system, but a Westminster model. Not a Rajtantra, but we have a president who is regarded to be second to the directly elected prime minister. The MP who becomes the prime minister by virtue of being the leader of the majority party in parliament. So this is my take on that. Rudra, may I? It was but natural for us. We came to debate, we came to understand what Locke meant. Even in the earlier times, Dadabhai Naoroji, the moderate, was writing about poverty and British rule in India, etc., etc. Un-British rule in India. He was talking about brain drain. He was
Yes,
talking
sir.
about economic drain. These are wonderful issues that we can go ahead with, but I think we'll go to the next part where Shubhrunil made very incisive statements which are very difficult to come up with just with a binary yes, no, good, bad value judgments. Right. So, but to my understanding, the basic question that is, what is to be done? Something that was before Lenin, right? Now, I am reminded of a person, you must have heard about দেশটা তোমার বাপের নাকি দেশটা তোমার বাপের নাকি, right? Now, composed by Ithun Babu, made headlines about a year ago and made viral by Mousumi Chaudhary singing. So I was just wondering, right? Deshta kar bape, karu bape to deshta nahi. This is from across the border. But I found its roots both in tune and in substance from Mera Bharat Mahalina. First, I would say that it is the poet Rahat Indori. So he pens, किसी के बाप का हिंदुस्तान थोड़ी है, किसी के बाप का हिंदुस्तान थोड़ी है, देशটা তোমার বাপের নাকি? Just see. A neighboring country wants to shun everything that is Indian, but the protest they have come up with is something that is rooted in India. From a poet whom we know as Rahat Indori. Right? Now about the tune. Chol mini Assam jabo. Just go into Moshumi again and you will think that Basudev Das Baul is singing this. অরণ্যের দিন রাত্রিতে গিয়েছিল চল মিনি আসাম যাব, রাইট? দেশটা কারোর বাপের নয়, দেশটা আমাদের সবার। এই প্লুরালিজম, this is something that is needed to be understood and nurtured. As we as students of political science know that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. So what I can do in my own aspect, since we are fortunate to be teachers, then it is our responsibility to bring up what they should know. Both sides of the pictures, what the East means, what the West means, what the North means, what the South means, what the left means, and so we must all know what polarization is. If you have to castigate or rather protest against an ideology, you have to first read and understand that. Secondly, there is also something which I learned from my own teacher, again, Professor Shomir Kumar Das. He was then at Presidency College before coming to Calcutta University, and he took our classes for a few months and then came over to Calcutta University. So he told us about an IPS person who wrote a book called Talk. The first thing is that if we are such a diverse country, the diversity also offers the fault lines. These are the spaces, and these are exactly the areas in which we founder, we falter, we fall, we fail. So we must be on our guard day in and day out. So we have to know what is to be said, but all aspects are to be first known as far as practicable. The point is that when you talk, you bridge the gulfs, the bridges, are built. Just a simple yes, hello. This is not so much in the plains as I found in the hills, A hill person would never, do something with just one hand. If you have to take something from him, he'll give you like this, he'll take something like that. It's even while getting into a place full of strangers, a person from the hills would smile, just a nod or a very small greeting, So this interconnectedness, your little gestures could make a lot of difference. Not promoting my point of view is something I think that I should do. This is something that is their take. This is something their take. Yes. Now you form your own opinion. Go ahead. It is not as dark as it was in June 1975, when everybody who was a veritable opponent or perceived opponent to the regime of the darkest years of Indian democracy, during the regime of the time when it was said that India is Indira, Indira is India. Right? It is a long journey. In spite of everything, we've had these periodic elections. We are looking forward to the SIR coming our way. It is a very, very difficult, complicated situation. But then, we must not lose hope. I go back to a very little quotation, this is Rebuild India by Swami Vivekananda. In chapter 2, he writes, our great national sin, what we must overcome, is still true today. There was this brutality of the dowry-related murder of a young lady yesterday, whose son said that they poured something on my mother and and I quoting, I consider that the great national sin is the neglect of the masses. And that is one of the causes of our downfall. In India, there are two great evils. Number one, trampling on the women, and number two, grinding the poor through caste restrictions. Have we been able to come away from that? At the very core, and this was written just after Chicago, no, so 125 plus years ago. To my mind, when we say that in the neoliberal atmosphere as is today, there is always this tussle between the state and the market, because the triad is citizen, state, market. The three. The triad, not the holy trio, let's say. Not very unholy either, but then we'll have to go through this again and again. So if you say that rolling back of the state and bringing the state right in, so we would say not remove the state, but move the state to where the heart of the land beats loudest. And I'm always for deepening democracy, strengthening democracy to its very roots, that is local democracy. Served as a BDO for 3 years, into political science and public administration all my life. So this is what I understand, that from a patron client to the essentially principal agent relationship, that I give you this, no dole, no populism. Popularism, popular, different from the other aspect of it. So it has been said that, when we talk about India, there are so many Indias, so many levels, so many spheres. So we must go down, deep down, bridge the theory and practice out. Right.
Please mute yourself.
So Shubhranil, so much for today, but thank you for this thought-provoking. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, actually, it's so existential at the end, but but thank you so much for giving us this light and this hope that there is much to fight for. There is a lot worth fighting for in this country.
Look,
Thank you.
You have one rank, one pension, which has been lately given. You have a certain Colonel Qureshi, like our Madhumita, the squadron leader. So we have combatants from the ladies who are fighting. We were never given these positions. We have moved on. This is something that has to be seen in a comparative perspective. Now a person born can live, because the life expectancy has gone up to 70 plus, more for women, a little less for men. Just consider India coming up with a vaccination within so little a span of time since COVID. That is something we have done. We have our ISROs. In the West, they say that we are bare feet in the club. But yes, we are there. Yes, we are there. Right. We talk about brain drain, but Shashi Tharoor was treating this yesterday. I was watching a program somewhere, and it says that a whole batch of IITians, they left for foreign shows and greener pastures. And everybody said, why? Maybe 40, 50 people. But many of them came back, and those who didn't, they sent remittances here, built schools in their villages, endowed the IITs with chair professors' positions, etc., etc., and they continue to do so. You go away and say that India is bad. In fact, it is brain gain, not drain. Not my coinage, Shashi Tharoor, as he is always so good at this. And other things also, because he's at 22 from Tufts University, he completed his Ph.D. No mean achievement. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
Thank-
much. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. This was indeed a very thought-provoking discussion. I think my two key takeaways from today's discussion would be like, keep your hope. It's we who can bring a change, especially we as youth can bring a change. Though we are facing a lot of things, but still we can bring change if we do our part and make the others understand that what their part is. So with this, I would like to thank all the participants for joining this evening and making this session such a success and such a beautiful discussion. Thank you, sir, so much again for your insightful discussions and thought-provoking lecture. So we look forward to your presence in our upcoming MindSphere Talks. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. With this, I'd like to conclude the meeting. Thank you. Thank you so much.